Slam Pigs podcast returns this week. Michael Liss, a little special Hall of Fame edition episode with a very special guest, my good friend, the roundabout Renee Lawrence. Welcome to the show. Everybody gets a cool 1980s wrestling nickname. We'll get to her in 1 second. Before we do, please hit that red button down below, subscribe right here. I know it fucking sucks. We had to transition from the Hibiki TMD channel, which we were on our way to 3,000 subs, to this. I'm not even going to get shitty about how little our sub count is, but now please tell a friend, tell your mother, tell your uncle, tell your dog, tell your fish, tell the world. The Slam Pigs are back, baby, and they're getting better than ever. And we're not going anywhere, so please get the word out. We're on this channel now, as well as my video game podcast, The Reset Button with Tannen, and horrors, not horrors, as everyone likes to say on every fucking show I do when I plug it, horrors of Hibiki. All shows used to be on Hibiki TMD, my horror movie review show with our good buddy at Lawmance, the almighty Kite Man TJ. My special guest this week, as we open the drapes and we have a seat in our finest dressed to the nines, tuxedos, our date for the evening, Rhea Ripley with Buddy Murphy, Charlotte with Andrade, Dominic Mysterio with his brand new wife. Congratulations, Dominic. Booker T by himself because Charmel's like, I'm staying home. Renee, roundabout Renee Lawrence. I've known this gal for quite some time. Never actually had you on a podcast. And if I did, it had to be so goddamn long ago. It had to be like a post show. I don't remember it. But I don't think you've ever stepped up the bat here on the Slam Pegs. Where, no. if you want to, welcome, first of all. And if you want to, if there's anything you want to plug where people can find you, anything you do. If not, you can just be like TJ always does. Be like, nope, I don't. Fuck it. Move on. Where can everyone find you?
Well, I'm on TikTok at, hang on, I gotta get my info here, because I wasn't prepared with that one.
Well, you're in the right fucking place for that. So welcome to Slam Pigs.
Well, you know.
And this is a cussy show.
It's a cussy show?
This is a cussy. You can do it, well, you can't do whatever you want, but you can essentially... I mean, without saying, like, see you next Tuesday and stuff that could potentially get us pulled. Yeah, I mean, you could say fuck till the cows come home here. It's Slam Pigs.
Hey, there we go. Let's see. My TikTok info here is at Lil Psycho 1970.
It's a little scary.
A little scary, yeah.
The way you said it was a little scary too. Like, come and get it.
Yeah. And I'm also on Twitter at Sky Song, and you can find me there.
It's a little more pleasant, yeah.
Yes.
Feels good. All right.
So you can find me there for now.
Awesome. And for right now, you can find her here because she is my special guest this week. A reason I asked this young lady to come on is because, God, how long have we known each other at this point? 3 to 4 years? That's insane.
3.5 years now.
That is insane. And so much has changed since then. Travis has grown into a fine young man.
Yes, he has.
I've always dug talking wrestling with you because you're not one of these like sociopaths on social media in the IWC. I usually hate saying the term IWC because where you can't just have a spirited fucking debate about like wrestling, the history of wrestling, modern wrestling, whether you love AEW, whether you hate it, without somebody spurging out, bringing their family into it, possible death threats. We've seen it all from these people at this point. But I've always gravitated talking to wrestling with you because you're one of those people that are not like that because you're a normal, functioning, goddamn 9 to 5 fucking human being. So first of all, thank you for that. Second of all, I'm tickled pink with almost every person, and we'll get there later, almost every person they've announced so far. I think Triple H is Paul Levesque, which is weird. They're calling him that on TV now, by the way. It's like a new pair of pants. You got to get used to it. Paul Triple H Levesque. I guess the buzz cut was hard to get used to at first, Renee, too. Well, we got used to it.
Since the transition from Vince McMahon's era to TKO's, you're seeing a lot more formalities.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting. but you're going to see a lot more. And I think there's going to be a lot more inner structure changes
I
with
agree
more things coming out.
that we've only just like opened the fucking lid on the beer on the Vince McMahon scandal right now. There's so like we're not even like through the foam. I feel like.
No, I don't even think we've peeled the whole band-aid off.
And I mean, you play devil's advocate. Who's to say Paul Levesque won't be caught up in that? It's definitely fair to say that with this situation anymore, it's gloves off. You never know. Anything could happen right now in that situation. But
Well, Stephanie's been named.
she has, but it's accounts like Ringside News or fucking some weirdo on Instagram. Like, not a source where I don't know. When I see it from the people that I usually like, Cassidy Haynes is really good at that.
Yeah,
I think he's underrated as a reporter. He's usually, I don't want to say bats 1,000, but he's usually up there with consistency.
that's very true.
We'll see. We're not here to be doom and gloom though. I'm in a fucked up way, and we're probably both going to hell for this. I'm excited to see what unfolds next.
No, me too.
How could you not? It's the train wreck of a man who's Vince McMahon. I mean, who's just carried himself so arrogant and so above everything. And I know there was that era where Vince was a genius, and we're all guilty of it at that time in the Attitude Era. A lot of us were a lot younger then, and just so happy wrestling was popular again. But I mean, this goes back to Rita Chatterton in like '86 and those rape allegations. It was always right under our nose. We were too ignorant to accept it. And yes, we should be embarrassed for that. But at the same time, the doldrums you and I have seen the wrestling business go through over the years, and especially all of our inductees we're going to talk about today, have been through all of those ups and downs. The shitty business booming, and right now WWE's doing some of their best business since the Attitude Era, dare I say. And I mean, a conglomerate doesn't fucking hurt. But
No.
that's another topic I feel like for another show. Let's get down to why we're here. The first inductee they announced was Paul Heyman, who I feel is very much goddamn deserved, by far.
Well, considering the fact that Paul Heyman started out as a photographer in the business. A photographer.
Yeah. Getting into
And he was
Studio
selling his
74, doing cocaine, fucking lying. He lied his way into, his dad was like an attorney, right?
Yeah. And he was like underage going in.
Underage, and somehow booked a show at Studio 54 with advertising an appearance of Ric Flair, which featured the actual first North American debut match of a young Bam Bam Bigelow. He pulled that shit off as a minor, and I don't know if that speaks to just his snake oil tongue, a combination of, I'm sure he was doing substances. It was the 80s at the time in New York City.
Yeah.
Just, my God, that right there alone, pulling that show off, and it obviously went on to be a success for Bigelow. That right there gets you in the Hall of Fame in my book. Just that one fucking story.
Exactly. And then he goes on to going into WCW. And going into he's seen it all. He used to work closely with Vince's dad.
He went from cutting his first in-studio promos with a fucking teddy bear in the AWA, cutting a promo on a teddy bear sitting on a stool, to managing one of the biggest box office draws currently in the last 10 to 15 years in Roman Reigns. He's had his own promotion that's,
He created the Attitude Era in my books.
In my books, he definitely planted the seeds, took care of the garden. The problem is corporate America came in and saw the garden and said, get the fuck out of the way, I'll pay you off, and I'll help you with lighting structure to grow your plants. But essentially, the more beautiful plants you grow, we're going to pick them and we're going to put them in our facility. And we're going to steal your ideas, and we're going to grow our own giant fucking biodome, and Pauly Shore is going to come in and fucking...
Mm-hmm.
Paul Heyman and his feud with the Midnight Express and Jim Cornette, I think that was the first stamp, okay, this guy can go. Because I know especially on that. I don't know if you own the Paul Heyman DVD they released like 10 years ago. It's like a 3-disc.
No, I haven't seen that. I'll have to get a hold of it.
It's got a great documentary on disc 1, but honestly, it's worth it for disc 2 and 3 alone, because disc 2 are just promos from his entire AWA up until modern WWE. And it's crazy to see him evolve just on that disc. But man, I think that Midnight Express feud, especially Jim Cornette, who's just a goddamn master, that really, that stamped Paul Heyman. And then to give him the Dangerous Alliance, there was a lot of faith to give him a stable. It would have gone better if he got along more with like Jim Herd and Bill Watts and Ric Flair, but then, we wouldn't have got ECW out of that and the Revolution and all that shit.
No, exactly.
Unfortunately, Paul Heyman's biggest flaw is Paul Heyman. He was a liar. He was a fucking terrible businessman. I think liar first and foremost. The legendary stories of like guys trying to fly in from Canada, like Chris Jericho or Lance Storm, like, well, Paul, read me off the number or something, and Paul just makes up a number. He's like, well, it's one too many digits. Oh, well, then tell him this number anyway. Just shady shit like that. And of course, I'm going out of business.
Yeah.
But,
and he blamed everybody else but himself.
Dare I say, if you take that era of Paul Heyman, let's say up until he joined the Alliance angle in 2001, I would say just him managing from like 2013 Brock Lesnar to now was worth Hall of Fame alone. Some of the best manager work of all time. Even, dare I say, better than Bobby Heenan sometimes.
Yeah. If you put him and Bobby Heenan together now, could you imagine?
Ugh.
I think they'd put the feuds between them would be epic.
Nobody could get a word in. Third Jim Cornette in there too. If it's like a 3-way and they each got their guy and Jimmy Hart.
Oh my God, they would destroy each other.
6-pack challenge, throw in Jimmy Hart too, fucking Downtown Bruno and like Gary Hart. Oh my God. Excuse me, taking a drink.
People say managers aren't needed now. I beg to differ sometimes.
Now I feel like it's a lost art because it's not cool to be that. Whereas back, I feel like in Bobby Heenan's days, the 60s, I was like, what? I can make just as much money just bumping a little bit and cutting promos and not being bored. Now it's like, it's looked at as an art and it's my art and, you're not as, superior as me because I get in there and they appreciate my move sets. It's like, we're in this weird fucking era of just guys' psyche like that. And, we're making money at the end of the day, takes a backseat. But yeah, I mean, it would be insane to have that. Congrats to Paul Heyman. If we could do this entire show on Paul Heyman, I feel like if we don't move the train along, we'll be here. Let's go to our next inductee, the U.S. Express. And I know you're a huge fan. Obviously, everyone is. The tragic passing of Wyndham Rotunda. Mike Rotunda, his father, and his uncle Barry Wyndham. Renee.
Oh, I'm really excited. Like, the Four Horsemen were already in. I'm pretty sure.
Yes. 2012, I believe.
So Barry's already in once.
2-time, ladies and gentlemen, Hall of Famer Barry Wyndham.
2-timer.
And when's he getting the 3-peat for the stalker gimmick is what I want to know.
I know, right? But this year's kind of special, I think, for them.
Most
because
definitely.
of Wyndham passing as well.
And it's also super weird if you think about it. Not to cut you off, I'm sorry. But if you think about it, their names are Wyndham Rotunda. And they're getting inducted together.
Yes. Barry and Mike have been around a very, very long time. Almost 40 years. And the contributions that they've given to wrestling, you can't deny that they deserve to be in there. IRS deserves it all on his own.
I highly doubt that they're just basing this off of their U.S. Express run, but I feel like it's easier to say Wyndham Rotunda and it's them as the people. Obviously, with the passing of Bray is why it's like this, but I mean, Barry Windham and the Horsemen, and that was turning on Luger. That was fucking incredible. Some of the loudest pops ever. And, Windham Just even his early 90s run in WCW, and just him being silly with the West Texas Rednecks and having fun and still passable matches.
He used to have some of the best rivalries with, you know, the Von Erichs.
Some of his shit in Florida, like some literal legit wrestling schools, showy. Oh my God, Travis, show Barry Windham matches to students
Yep,
for criteria
yep, they do.
as how a big man can be agile but not lose that. What guys like Brian Cage and fucking guys like that piss me off with. Pick, are you a high flyer? What the fuck are you? You know, I just get
They're
so
not
frustrated.
safe.
No, so
I'm
well
sorry.
deserved.
They can get mad at me if they ever hear this, but I've watched them do moves that they're not being safe, and then they get up and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm a big strong man."
I think
And
Barry,
no,
every time Barry Windham or Mike Rotunda had to take time off TV, I can never recall it being a bad injury. It was either Barry Windham was his own worst enemy too, with his demons and his substance problems and no showing events and
well, usually he was stoned out of his mind or drunk as a skunk.
exactly with some new girl or something. And we all know the crazy NWA '80s Barry Windham stories. And Mike Rotundo, I feel like he was a clean cut guy. I'm sure he was no saint at one point. He liked to party a little bit, but he kept starting a family, so he'd take a little bit of time off. But neither one of these guys I recall ever being out for injury. And I feel like right now it's fair to say we're creeping up on half the AEW roster's injured. I'd say a quarter of the WWE roster is injured, and it constantly keeps happening. And I'm not
Yeah.
going to go off on a different rant, but Barry Windham and Mike Rotunda knew how to pace a fucking match and slow it down. No
Well,
waste.
and they also had a good mentor.
Oh yeah, having Blackjack fucking Mulligan and shit like that does not hurt. And Captain Lou in your corner.
Well, yeah, Captain Lou was around them for a long time, and he was a great teacher.
And what's crazy is as popular as they were, it only won about a year, didn't it? In that Rock and Wrestling at the U.S. Express. It wasn't very long. It's not quite flash in the pan because they deserve better than that. But yeah, they were extremely popular. They just didn't.
Well, they were around before that a little bit too, though.
Yeah.
Before the WWE became a thing, or WWF.
They're all over the journeyman wrestlers.
Yeah.
Congrats to them and God bless Bray Wyatt. Let's talk about one that surprised everyone, and I haven't seen one person bitch, and it's some rare fucking moments like that, Renee, in the wrestling community that make me smile when everyone's in agreement. Well-deserved Bull Nakano. Thoughts?
She deserves this. She is a legend. She only did a year in the WWE or WWF, but the impact she made over in Japan is insurmountable. She has been named the most impactful women's wrestler in All Japan Women's Pro Wrestling, the promotion.
Yeah, the legendary All Japan Women's from the early 90s. That
Yeah.
still holds up. We were talking about that off air. Like, oh, you seen this shit on YouTube? It's fucking, those women are badass. They would make some of the guys today their bitch. Easily.
I think something happened with her, and one of the male wrestlers tried to do something. She laid him out.
I'm sure. I don't know the actual story offhand, but it sounds up her alley. I think, what's crazy about her? Like, she's a beautiful woman. She always was, even for a little bigger woman. But she just had her makeup on it. It was kind of like Sherry syndrome. Like, Sherry was a beautiful woman, but like the older Bull Nakano got, she was just gorgeous. She still is for an older Asian lady. She's so beautiful. It's just it throws you off when you first see her as just. She was also a golfer for a hot second who got fired for doing cocaine. But I don't think that's going to be brought up in her speech. The question is who's going to induct her. I mean, obviously it's got to be Medusa. Who else would it be? It could be an Asuka, but it should be Medusa. Come on.
She had some pretty good matches with Wendy Richter as well.
Yeah. That SummerSlam 94 women's match, I remember. Oh, I was 10 years old, and my brother's 4 years younger than me, so he was 6. That match blew our mind as kids, and that match still kicks ass. And they woke that crowd up. Like, because back then, in the late 80s, unfortunately, in the early 90s, unless it was the Jumping Bomb Angels, fans were like, oh, pee break. They sat back down quickly with Alundra Blaze and Bull Nakano in that match. It's a classic. Highly recommend. It's a must-see if you're into believable, hard-hitting women's wrestling. It goes off without a hitch. And that Egg Dome match you were telling me, where Bull Nakano beat her in Japan, jumping off the fucking top rope leg drop. Was it in the cage?
I can't remember.
Is this the one where Medusa came down on the Harley with the flag?
I believe so.
Yeah. They were badass entrances at that time.
They did some pretty amazing stuff, those two, back in the day.
I think
you got to remember, I grew up watching, the territories. So I watched, and I grew up watching All Japan and New Japan Wrestling. Because, Bruiser Brody was over there, Vader was over there,
Well, that was like that era's tape trading. That was like your ECWs to see the start. You see like Andre against Akira Maeda was a totally different Andre. Holy shit.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'd love to see Brody and Hanson and Andre when they all, and Lance Archer, God bless him, still does it when they go in the crowd and they just throw chairs and it's beautiful. And the fans love it. They loved it. They're so weird.
You know what annoys me about the newer generation of fans?
They don't fuck with the fans. They'd rather go out there and cry because it's their debut or they're in the main event.
Yeah. They do not appreciate wrestling.
I'm not saying that there aren't moments in wrestling that do not call for tears. I'm not saying that at all. I am not saying that. But before the character breaks, I got to get some character. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm
not saying they don't appreciate wrestling, but I mean when I say they don't appreciate it, they watch it, bitch about it, get on everybody else for their opinions, whereas I can sit there and you and I can talk about it and have our friendly debates about it and stuff, and we don't get pissed off at each other,
Yeah, exactly.
And we appreciate and absorb and enjoy and can talk about all these old matches, and I can sit there and tell you, okay, I remember when, Vince absorbed, the Florida territories and the Georgia territories and the Carolinas and stuff.
Black Saturday.
I can't believe he did that,
Yeah. And you know what? For old school people like us who like new and old, I defend Darby Allin in that Sting's last match because his character called for a spot like that. My problem is AEW does that shit every other match. Not necessarily glass, but if everything's a bloodbath, then it means nothing. And that's another show for another time, I'm sure. When Michael gets on here and we get you back, trust me, you want someone that's going to maybe AEW up the ass, it's my co-host, Mike. Mike, you're missed. I'll see you at Mania, pal. Congratulations, Bull Nakano. And here's hoping next year, not just Bray Wyatt headlining, but in 2025, I think it's high fucking time we got Velvet McIntyre and the Jumping Bomb Angels in the Hall of Fame. One or the other. Velvet might be in it, but the Jumping Bomb Angels need to go because they were incredible.
That sounds good too.
Up next, you're telling me two inductees I didn't know. Muhammad Ali, I guess the celebrity inductee. WrestleMania 1 enforcer. Punched Bob Orton, correct?
Yeah, and he floats like a butterfly and stings like a bee.
Did a weird shot in Collision in Korea, which is an uncomfortable ass pay-per-view. WCW did. You see the Dark Side of the Ring episode. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And he did like one more thing in WCW that's kind of unmemorable, and that was it. I don't really want to talk about. We all know his boxing career. We've all seen the movies. We've all seen the fights. We know he dodged 24 fucking punches in like 10 seconds. We all know who Muhammad Ali is. I thought it was a good choice.
More thing.
What's that? Oh
he
God!
Fought Antonio Inoki and Gorilla Monsoon.
The less said about the Inoki match, the better.
Huh?
The less said about the Inoki match, the better. It's terrible, but I appreciate the cross promotion for what it was because they
Yeah,
packed
he
that.
did that in '76 for two exhibition matches.
They packed that. I have never seen the Gorilla Monsoon match. I don't know if you have.
Um, I remember watching it when I was really, really, really young, because I was 6 years old.
Well, see, now we got some homework. We both got to go watch the Gorilla Monsoon match sometime. Talk about it.
I know. I might look for it after we're done.
Unfortunately, I've seen the Inoki match way too many fucking times, and each time I'm thinking like it's not gonna be that bad. And guess what? It gets fucking worse. Like, I would rather watch fucking Earthquake shoot on Koji Kitao for a 3-hour loop where they're just awkward fat guys missing kicks and pushing and pie facing than this.
Earthquake missed my head. Boom.
I think for a celebrity inductee, I'm actually shocked this didn't happen way sooner.
Yeah, me too.
But
Or Cyndi Lauper. She keeps not getting inducted.
is she not in there? I keep forgetting she's not in there.
No, and I don't know why.
I know they honored her like a Raw, like 2000 or something, but that was she was in like an angle with Heath Slater. God, that was forever ago when he was like doing his Legend Killer thing.
And they tried to pull a Roddy Piper thing.
Yeah, maybe Cindy's a bitch to deal with. Who knows? Maybe they've tried, and she's like, I don't like wrestling. I'm embarrassed by it. It's a terrible Cyndi Lauper, but
well, maybe she didn't want to do it because Vince was around. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah. Ugh. I don't really know what else to say about Muhammad Ali's little runs in wrestling. The Inoki match. I guess, Gladdy, you got to see it once. You got to experience it. You just got to experience it. We are going to watch the Gorilla Monsoon match sometime. And it is what it is. WrestleMania 1, Vince McMahon was very smart to book Liberace and fucking Billy Martin. Goddamn Muhammad Ali. You know, The Rock and wrestling.
Billy Martin was my buddy. I loved that guy.
Yeah, I remember he was like, was he in a beer commercial for Bud or something in the 80s?
He used to do funny shit on commercials. You know, he was the face of the Yankees for so long.
Yeah. I think it's a good choice. How could it not be? It's fucking Muhammad Ali. And our last inductee so far that we know of that you told me off air, Renee.
Thunderbolt Patterson.
Go ahead. Take it.
Well, he worked the feds in, Florida and Georgia and the Carolinas. He worked in NWA. I don't know a lot about Thunderbolt Patterson.
He's the guy that gave Dusty Rhodes his literal blessing to rip him off. His promo style, his whole mannerism. It's kind of like if Hogan would have asked Billy Graham and not just stolen it.
Yeah. I know he got blacklisted and stuff, but we want to talk happy thoughts.
Exactly. There's a lot of if you really want to know controversies about Thunderbolt Patterson, they're out there. I mean, look up Teddy Long, Thunderbolt Patterson. Controversial if you know some of the stories about him, but I feel like as far as separating the art from the artist, I think he deserves it. He's definitely, I would say, a legendary, influential. If we didn't have this guy, we would have no American Dream Dusty Rhodes. Think about that.
No, exactly.
Think about that. Those repercussions. My God. No Dusty and Billy Graham and MSG. No fucking Dusty in the NWA fucking going after the Road Warriors. None of that. So, I need to I've seen some Thunderbolt Patterson. They're always terrible matches. He's like one step below George Steele for me, ring work wise. But he's definitely charismatic. What's that other guy's name?
He also taught Dusty how to do promos.
Yeah. Who was that other dude? He was a white guy. He was bald. Had this same style. Oh, I'm going to hate myself.
I can't remember either. I know who you're talking about.
Bugsy McGraw. Bugsy McGraw. That fucking guy. I feel like he ripped off both these guys in a hybrid, but didn't bother to ask either if he could borrow the gimmick. But Bugsy McGraw.
Bugsy was always ripping somebody off.
Yeah. A shyster, from what I hear. A fucking carny at his finest.
Yeah.
Did you hear the story about him and Italian Stallion? That carny piece of shit? The job guy from WWF?
Yeah,
It was like was like a water gun full of piss or something, and Bugsy McGraw chased him with a pistol. I don't know. Look that up too, guys. We're not here to celebrate Bugsy McGraw, but that is your current lineup for your Hall of Fame 2024 in Philly. I will be in Philly with Mike for a WrestleMania vlog. It's been since 2019 since we've gone. Yes.
Travis is going to be live on location, and I'm going to watch it remotely.
You're probably the smarter person. I paid way too much for my fucking ticket. And I have to stay in not a lovely part of Philadelphia in my hotel. Camden. So.
Oh, you're staying in Camden?
Yes. Thanks, Michael. Ooh. Michael's the booker. I respect you, Booker man. Until then, Renee, thank you so much for making Slam Pigs debut one more time. Where can everyone catch you?
Thank you very much for having me.
No problem. Where can everyone catch you?
On TikTok at Little Psycho 1970 and on Twitter at SkySong.
All right, thank you guys. Get her to check her out. She will be back in future episodes. I guarantee that. And I guarantee you should have already, if you haven't already, hit that red button down below, subscribe. I know we're at a piddly fucking 13 to 14 subscribers right now. We got to get back up there, guys. Please, I'm not begging, but I'm begging. Slam Pigs Podcast is back. Bigger and better things on the horizon. Thank you again, Renee. This is your Hall of Fame special episode 2024. We hope we did all inductees the justice they deserve. Until next week, see you later.